go. Happy Sunday. I would say, how is everybody doing? But we've kind of been going over that. So how was this week? I know there were some complicated issues, some challenging ones. How are you all feeling?
I think it was good. There was, some confusion with our issue at least because of we had no idea what inactive was at first, but then we got it resolved, and then we're also in the talks about refactoring some of the code to make it more reusable and stuff like that. So I think getting that conversation started this week to kind of like we're getting towards the end of Collab Lab, so it's nice that we're going to try and just kind of clean everything up that we've been working on.
Yeah, when you, because you're going to go in and use context to manage the list, right?
Mm-hmm.
Next week. That'll be like a really good learning opportunity because you will come across context, and I feel like it's one of the more complex hooks to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be good. That'll be good for you. What else? How else did it go? What happened to this week? It was just kind of there and now it's gone.
Yeah, I agree.
How? When? What? I can't even.
I think it was a good week for us. Meeting Joey on Thursday cleared up a lot of things for myself and John. So yeah, I really enjoyed this week. I feel a lot more comfortable with like every aspect of the work. So that's good.
Awesome.
Yeah,
it's like really getting to that point too where like you've all worked on basically like every piece of the app. And so I feel like you're probably much more familiar with what's going on in it. And so I love the idea of reading through your Slack of let's all meet together to like refactor using context. Cause it's like, that's something that like, if you weren't involved in and you go in and you look and all of a sudden you're like, what is this? And how do I use it? So I love like how closely you all have worked as a team to make sure that everybody's kind of like up to speed on what's going on and are like, just collaborating. Just beautiful collaboration. That is the name of the game.
I also had a really quick question. We could like talk about it later too if we want to do demos first. But I was wondering, so I'm sure it happens a lot. Like you're on a software or web development team and you have no idea what you're actually working on. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't know what the whole picture is. How, like for you all, how do you orient yourself to understand, to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to, even though you don't know what the big picture is?
Good question.
Yeah, that one's like, so like I've been in like an enterprise environment and like a smaller team environment, and that's a lot more common with the enterprise level environment where you're working on such a big piece of software. You work on just like one small cog that plays into this whole bigger picture, and that's less prevalent with smaller-ish companies. Smaller-ish being between 50 and maybe like 200 or 300. But something I found when I'm confused about what's the end goal for this is to like meet with my product manager and to kind of ask them like, hey, I'm working on this feature XYZ. What is like the benefit for this? So like how is this going to be used in the whole product? And every product owner, product master I've talked to, they're more than happy to take time out of the day to kind of walk through like the whole product process for what you're working on. So it just varies. I've noticed from time to time.
One thing that like, because I had like the same kind of concerns going on to a team. So like at Zapier, right, we have like this huge product and like lots of different teams and stuff. And I was like, how are you supposed to know everything that's going on and how everything works together and stuff? But I found that like when you get really familiar like with whatever stack your team is working on, it's much easier to kind of pop in and see how things are connected because you just understand the structure a little bit better like at a glance. So like when you kind of see how things are connected, it's easier to like trace it back to where you're going. So if you do understand like what exactly you're supposed to build, which is the first step, communicate like Joey was saying with your product manager or other developers who have worked on the code and understand where it's going. Then like once you get in and you can really just like read through the code and understand where all the moving pieces are, it's like less scary. And hopefully there will be tests in place so that, when you do add things or make changes, you can make sure nothing else is breaking. But that was a good question. Lauren, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what both of you said, I like to reach out to my QA team too, they're usually super knowledgeable about the application and how it works. But like Jen, you're totally right. You come into a big code base and it is hard to orient yourself and it takes time. Like reaching out to the PM or QA and more senior developers, I guess, who have been around the block with that application in particular, they'll be able to orient you to the architecture.
Yeah, something else I found too, other than like engineering and project, is to talk to other departments. So like talking to support, like they know the pain points for our like users, and they know the product inside and out probably better than you do, because they have to deal with it every day with customer issues. So reaching outside of engineering and asking for help is always a good thing too, to kind of get clarification.
Yeah, this isn't the first time I've heard like QA and support. They know all, so make friends with them.
Yeah, totally. For sure.
Yeah, no matter where you are, like one of my favorite things at Zapier has been making friends with people who I'm fully unrelated to at work at all, like don't work together with in any capacity, because you will always find little things that you need help with that are on like their teams. Like make really good friends with somebody in data, because when you need like a little favor, you just reach out to your friend in data and be like, can you help me out with this? Or like when you need help from something from support, you have like that connection. So you're like less likely to just put it off and try and fight through it yourself. You can just like lean on your contacts a little bit. So definitely make friends. If you're in a remote setting, like see if people want to have donut chats where you just get together for 15 minutes and chat about nothing, and build those friendships, because it will pay off, I promise. Okay. With that, any other questions? Any other awesome questions like that are just kind of high level, what if kind of things? That was fun.
Cool. Well, if there are no more questions, let's go ahead and hop into demos. Jen, do you want to kick off demos with your order shopping list items ticket?
Yeah.
Cool. And we'll check out the delete ticket after this.
So I was going to share my screen, right?
Yes, please.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, so our issue this week was basically to try and organize everything in the shopping list view so people can easily differentiate between when you have to buy things or how soon you have to buy things. And we had to order it by how soon and then also within how soon alphabetically. Another thing that we had to tackle too for the ACs was to make it accessible. And so we did that by adding ARIA labels. So if anyone's using a screen reader and making sure that we had to we could tab through our shopping list, which Lauren was a really big help for that. But yeah, so one of the things we did before all of this is Diane and I noticed that a lot of the numbers that we've been using to assign the actual status of the items were just numbers. And so if anyone came in and tried to figure out what was going on with our code, it might get a little bit confusing because it's kind of not documented anywhere. And also our like structure in Firebase is also not documented anywhere either. And so we started talking about, so time frame constants here. We're thinking of pulling it all out into this JavaScript file, and also having a couple helper functions that are also within this file. So you can just take out the string value or take out the integer value for the status that you want. So we'll probably completely refactor like the add item form and the shopping list so that it's more easy. So in the future, theoretically, you could have the user set what they want for soon, kind of soon or not soon, because different people have different definitions. So it lends that flexibility and better readability for the future. But yeah, so Diane can go ahead and talk about our ACs and how we accomplish those.
Yeah, so our ACs. So we had to lists are shown visually grouped in the following order: soon, kind of not soon, and inactive. So for that, like Jen had mentioned, we made the shopping list items into their own component. And so this is our shopping list item. We had added the time frame string, which will return depending on the number of whether they clicked soon, not soon, or whatever's in the database really. It'll return this string. And so that'll display directly into the app. For for the inactive, I don't know, Jen, if you want to go directly into the inactive state.
Yeah, sure, we can. So that's kind of like what a little bit of the confusion that we had this week is in the previous issues on GitHub, inactive wasn't mentioned, and so inactive kind of was brought up in this issue this week. We were a bit confused. We were like, oh, if we need to store inactive into the database, we need to update while we read, and we're like making it this whole complicated thing. But actually, all the mentors recommended that we just kind of do it in place. And so what we're doing is, before we set state when we get shopping list, we created a helper function called filter shopping list by time frame. And so what we do is we filter all of the items, and then we also check for inactive while we do that. So we have our helper function flag inactive, so that all these helper functions pre-process the data after we have grabbed it from Firebase, and then we set it to state, so that when we map over our items, we don't have to worry about that while we're mapping. So all the logic is pre-processed data. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So for the filtering part, which was the second AC, them having to be sorted by their number and alphabetically, we had made within the, so we flagged the inactive first, and then within the actual filtering, we built the alphabetical sorting function. And then within that, we just rebuilt the array of the shopping list and concatted all of them one after the other, so that it'll display on the app like that, while also alphabetically sorting it. And for the ARIA label, which was the last one with the screen reader, that was built directly in the shopping list item component, where we added the ARIA label here that would say this string, the ARIA string, which we built right there. So like the item name to be bought in whatever time frame it is. So like fewer than 7 days or whatnot.
Yeah, it was interesting to note that the compiler didn't like the template literal straight in the curly braces.
Mhm.
So we had to make it a constant outside. So just for you all, I don't know if it was just the editor that was erroring out for that, or if that's just something you have to do. Just one thing to note.
When you say the compiler, our formatter didn't like it, or
I'm not sure, like, I'm not compiler. So when Webpack was putting everything together, it gave a warning. It was either the editor or Webpack, and I don't remember at this time which one it was, but one of them complained, and so we just moved it out to a constant.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but usually in React, can you just like throw a template literal in there like that?
Yeah, as long as like if I would do it inline, like on the input, I would do ARIA label equals, and then I'd still have to put the curly brackets. And then
Yeah, it wasn't the curly bracket. Maybe it was just the editor that was not happy then. So
Hmm.
we could try that next time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Great work.
Good job. Okay. John and Ashley, you guys want to get started with your demo with delete?
Yep. I can share my screen, John. Do you want me to share
Sure.
mine?
Yeah, that's fine.
I haven't done it in a while. Okay, here we go. Here. Yeah, so this is our issue. As a user, I want to delete items from my shopping list in cases where I made an error entering the item or where I know I will no longer be buying the item in the future. And then our ACs, where a user is able to delete an item from the shopping list. You then prompt the user to confirm that they really want to delete the item, prevent accidental deletions, and then also deletion should cause the associated records in the database to be deleted. So it was fairly straightforward. I'll just show you our code. So John created a really nice delete. If I can get it going. Hello. Maybe not. Oh, here we go. Where is it again? Down here. Yeah, so this is what we started with. Just here, const delete item, which is really nice because it kind of did everything we wanted. It deleted it from Firebase. It actually deleted it as well, and then brought us back to get shopping list. I think where we had a little bit of difficulty was like where to put the modal and how to call it, basically. So Joey was really, really helpful in that. We also created a button up here to delete the item. So a few buttons were created. And then the idea of that was that this little thing that's highlighted here is the trash can that you see that you press. It deletes the item and then it calls up the modal to the user.
That was clever. I didn't know about that trash can.
Yeah, that was John. Very cool. Yeah. So I think, yeah, so use state was kind of a challenging thing for us a little bit. And then also we used props in the modal, which we were trying desperately not to do, but because I'm not really that familiar with props, but in the end we had to do it. So, so yeah, so this is our modal, very simple really. 2 buttons, one deletes and one doesn't delete basically. The thing about the cancel or not delete is we wanted to remove the modal and go back to normal as such, which was kind of hard for us to figure out, but eventually we did with Joy's help. Anything else, John, do you think?
No, I think you hit on pretty much everything. I'm just glad we were able to meet up with Joey on Thursday because I'm still struggling with passing props everywhere and everything. So, but that was a good refresher. I liked that, and I mean, in the end, it was awesome to create the modal and its own component as well, because just keeps everything clean. But no, I think you hit everything.
I think he had some really good like debugging techniques as well, which I hadn't realized we could have done. And he added the item name as well, which is just a really nice thing for the user to make sure they know exactly what they're deleting. So that was pretty cool. We didn't think of that.
Passing props around can be like a really intimidating thing before you kind of like get a handle on it. It
totally
I wonder
does.
if it would be good to do a learning module on using like the React dev tools or just dev tools in general.
Yeah, I love the React dev tools.
They're so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That
Yeah.
gives you a better idea of like
When
what
I found out it
props to bring
existed,
back.
it changed. It blew my mind.
Yes, this is great. I'm gonna take a note. That would be brilliant.
So yeah, this is our shopping list. I'll just show you from this angle as against doing it from the start. So if you want to delete something, and actually I think when we had a meeting on Thursday and we figured we couldn't delete older items, but I think we can now all of a sudden. So I don't know, maybe I'll try it out. We were finding that like we had to add an item and then delete it. It had to be like a new item. But I think it works now. I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy. But this one I just added, so we'll just try this. This is sellotape. And then it says, are you sure you want to delete sellotape? Yes or no? I'm going to say yes for the sake of deleting. Oh yeah, it does work. And then when you go into, I'll try it with an old item as well, just to make sure. Firebase. Wow, she does not like me today. And I actually turned my computer off for like so long last night. It's just like, not happy. Sorry, folks. Here we go.
Fine.
Oh, I don't know why it's so slow. We have quite good Wi-Fi.
While this loads, I had a quick question.
Yeah.
So you know how we've been unpacking props kind of into, like, if we're passing an item, then we can unpack it using like curly braces item. If you try and put in a key or a state that doesn't exist in the, or like if you try to put in something that doesn't exist as a prop key, does it error out or does it just not tell you? Is it just null?
Are you saying if you try to access a prop that doesn't exist, or you
Yeah,
try to
like if
access?
you say like instead of typing item, you type items, and items obviously doesn't exist as a key for a prop. Is it just null or does it error out?
Well, it depends on how you access that. So if you access, like, say, let's say you have a props object and in it you have an item prop which has an object in it. If you do props.item.items, it would just be undefined. If you do props.items, it would also be undefined. Yes, it would just be undefined pretty much.
Yeah, so if you try to like unpack, yeah, okay, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks. I don't know why it's taking so long. Maybe they're cutting off our Wi-Fi up here.
If it keeps going like this, maybe we can pull it up on John's PC if his is working.
Same thing. I'll stop sharing there.
Yeah, and I can actually confirm that that one does not exist in that list anymore.
We believe you.
What?
We believe you.
Yeah,
Well,
we'll take your
yeah.
word.
Here we go.
Can you share now?
Just so you know, it's not there.
That's so weird.
Are you seeing my screen or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, we see it.
Okay. So I think we were in the soya mildew, whatever list it was. And there is no, I'll know what that item was that you had in there, but I don't see it in here anymore.
Sellotape.
Yeah, there you go. Sellotape. All I see is hot dogs, oranges, bananas, cheese, hot dog buns, and chili. So sellotape is gone.
Awesome.
And I mean, did you want me to demonstrate it? Did you want me to bring it up? I don't know.
Sure, if you want. I mean, it'd be nice to see it next to the database.
Sorry, I
Yeah. It's all good. All right. And hopefully this one still works.
Yeah, it was the older items we couldn't. I
Yeah.
couldn't then, and it worked for me randomly on like an older item, so I don't.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that was this one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So then, well, let's start up at the top. We've got hot dogs. Go ahead and just
That's an old item, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess this would just show if older items delete
Yeah.
too. So here we go. We'll go with yes. And
Maybe not. Actually.
maybe not. What was a newer item that you had?
Orange and banana. I just added those earlier as well.
Orange. Let's go with orange. And we'll go with yes. And now that's gone. And also banana. We'll have to revisit that other one. And banana. Let's hit no. So say we made a mistake. We didn't want to delete that. Hit no, and it's just gone. So
It's really interesting that it's not deleting old ones. Is it calling the document ID, like passing the document ID through to delete them?
Yeah, it is.
yeah.
Yeah, we had other errors as well in other parts of the app where if we tried to retroactively update something that had a different, like slightly different schema, it didn't like it, even though it's supposed to be totally flexible.
Yeah.
So we're not exactly sure why that is.
Interesting.
Yeah, that might actually be a potential issue with the schema shape with the newer and older items.
Cool. Great work,
Yeah,
everyone.
good job.
That's good.
There you go.
Super nice. Cool. Are we ready for retro?
I think so.
Yep.
Share my screen. Which side am I on? Are you seeing my retro or are you seeing my Zoom?
Yeah, we see your retro.
Okay. So retro, we know the story. We're going to take, how long did it do last time, Joey? Like 7 minutes?
Yeah, about 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay. Let's do 7-ish minutes. So go ahead and fill out appreciations, what you thought went well this week, things that you felt good about, and what prevented us from making progress or what could work better for next sprint. And then we'll take some action items from that. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. So it's super secret and we'll do 7 minutes. Ready to go. just about halfway done. Oh, Jen, we'll add some action items at the end after our discussion. Oh, I think I copied Joey's retro board. So he was the instigator of the action items. It's a good idea.
Yeah, I like action items.
I guess I could just be actually talking.
You don't need to. Everybody can hear you through the text.
I was trying to figure out if we can automate these project creations.
Oh, there is a copy. You can copy a project board.
Oh, can you
But
move between repos?
yeah, it goes to like, because I had done that initially, but it goes under just the collab lab instead of, it doesn't let me pick like this particular repository.
It'd be cool to have that as like a onboarding task for Collab Lab, like just go ahead and create them all.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
every time there's a retro, it's just already created.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Let's see what their API supports.
Right. How's it going, everybody? Da, da, da. We good? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many of us are there? 4, 7. Almost done. Almost done. Actually, I'm just going to get started, and then whoever's kind of finishing up can finish up on the fly. Sharing. I think I'm sharing the right thing.
Yep.
Let's see. Yeah, usually Zoom is being weird. Usually that it shows me, like, puts a ring around the right desktop, but it's being silly today. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm just gonna go in order top to bottom. So let's start with appreciations, and Diane, you're number one.
Yeah, I guess I'm the slow writer because I've been number one for two retros now. So yeah, I just wanted to thank Stacy for the call this week when we did hit the inactive issues. Actually Andrew too. He was in the thread, and Lauren. Anyway, everyone who helped with it, just because it really helped us clarify everything, and you really went in depth in the call, and it was cool to kind of see how you thought about the code without actually having seen the app necessarily before. So that was a really great learning experience for me. Working with Jen again this week was amazing. I think we both communicated really well, and just seeing how she works with the problems is always such an eye-opener, because she like thinks of refactoring and making the code better, and like these are all, maybe for me at least, some of my weaker points. So it's really great to work with Jen on that. And also last week working with Ashling, I think that week too we had a shorter week, so I was kind of stressing on time, and like Ashling was just like super positive and resourceful. She had found like other code bases from like just from other teams and from the internet before we even had gotten started. So I really appreciated working with her. So yeah, those are my appreciations.
So let's see here. Ashling, you are next.
Yeah, patience is lovely. Everyone is so patient, because sometimes I find stuff just doesn't come quickly to me, or I just don't have the experience or knowledge. And everyone is just so kind. It's lovely. It's just such a nice environment to work with people who just are just so encouraging. It's lovely, and I feel like I'm learning a lot. Thursday session was just really eye opening, and those kind of times are really eye opening because you can look at something for quite a while, and then when somebody's fresh eyes come on it, it's great. And then also just the constant encouragement and resources and things like that are in Slack are really, really good as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Jen?
Yes, now I'm unmuted. Okay, so kind of like what Diane said, we're really appreciative of all the mentors, because I think there was that one day where Diane and I were just pinging the Slack like 5 or something times, and then that one thread got really long and we were just really confused. And we're just so thankful. And even Andrew ended up coming into the chat and chiming in, and everyone was replying so fast. And so we're just like, we're so thankful for having the wealth of knowledge, and just like even during like I'm someone who likes to ask a lot of questions, and so randomly in our meetings we'll be like, I have this random question, and everyone's always so nice and just wants to share their experience. And that is exactly why I joined Collab Lab, because I feel like that's how you learn from people's experiences. And I loved working with Diane this week. I think so I've paired with a lot of different people, especially through boot camp, and like me, I feel like you always feel super good when you just find a really good pair that you jive really well with. And I feel that way with Diane. And I'm really appreciative. She's always on top of things. She's always really flexible when I need to like dip out or something. And she's always open to like changing the code or making it better. And so I really thank you, Diane, for being an awesome pair. And thanks for everybody for just like, even though we could do more, everyone's doing a really great job at being more noisy. So I really appreciate that. So, yep.
Cool. Thank you. John, you're next.
All right, so all of you guys, I'm not going to top any of the other 3 that went before me. But all I can say is everyone did an awesome job. I like how we're all able to just come together like midweek, even with Joey, and meeting up with your mentors and everything, just to get over all of the other really big blockers that you couldn't that you couldn't solve with the rest of the cohort. But yeah, just everyone working, helping everybody out. And that's what I appreciate. And I appreciate working with Aisling also. She's a trooper. She is totally wanting to learn. You can tell that she's wanting to learn a lot. And I'm willing to learn a lot too, especially with modals, which I've heard of them, but I've never worked with them. And it was cool to actually see again. So thank you to all of you guys. Appreciate it.
Awesome. I appreciate Lauren and Joey for being superstar mentors. You guys are amazing. And I love that you'll like jump on calls so eagerly and be so helpful and so supportive and help people get unblocked. It's incredible. And I appreciate you. I also appreciate you all, as I keep saying, for working so hard and being so dedicated during such weird times where we're definitely not all on top of our productivity and commitment games. So appreciate you. Thanks for hanging in there and doing brilliant work and learning together and working so well together. On to Joey.
Awesome. So I want to say that working with John and Aisling this week, we met up on Thursday and kind of went over what the pair had worked on so far. And that session was very productive. The questions they're asking are incredible. They're really well thought out, and they've actually done the work before they ask a question, and it really shows in the work they're doing. They're so eager to learn, and everybody too in this whole cohort is just doing such a phenomenal job with these complex stories and just crushing it. So, I mean, good job, everybody.
Wow. I wish I had a lot more time to like say all of my appreciations, because this was such a great and fulfilling week. But I want to call out Aisling for just always asking such great questions, really, really good questions. And I know that you'll say things like, oh, I just appreciate everyone giving me their knowledge, but your questions are so insightful and show how much you understand. It's really fantastic. And you're always so positive to everyone, like just always saying really nice things about everyone's work, and I appreciate that. And this week, the whole group is just working together so well. I loved that everyone got together on Wednesday, I think it was, and started talking about kind of the architecture of the app and restructuring things and submitting like an extra pull request. That was super exciting. Diane, great commit messages. Thanks to Jen. Jen, you have to show me because I always get scared with Vim. So you'll have to show me how to write.
Kudos to Jen for showing me how to make those commit messages in Vim.
Exactly.
Now I can't stop.
But yes, thanks to everyone, because I just thought it was such a stellar week. All right, so moving on to Diane again for what went well.
What went well this week? PR descriptions definitely went smoothly, thanks to Lauren for setting up that template and based off Stacy's. It was really nice to get a complete, like, full description in the PR and seeing the cute emojis too. And also what went well was the communication again between all the teams. I'm just super impressed. We even got organized and we're like ready to tackle context next week and all this craziness. So yeah, that went super well.
Cool, thank you. Aisling.
I said realizing what we didn't know. It's every week you're kind of learning what you don't know and what you do know. And it's good to just ask for help early. The meeting during the week is really beneficial, meeting the other cohorts. The new PR descriptions, I really liked that as well. I didn't put it down, but I did like it.
Cool. John?
Yeah, so what? Oh, it's John. Sorry.
Me? I was like, okay, go for it. No. But no, so what I think went well, I'll just read this. What I think went well this week was a collaboration between the teams. Ashley and I were faced with things that we weren't too comfortable with. Me again with the modals, and both of us with the props. But we got through it, learned something new in the process. And I'm also excited to actually, I was wondering when we were actually going to start instituting context to this. And it was awesome to actually hear that. So I'm excited.
Cool. Joy.
So it's kind of echoing people with the early PRs. I mean, it's always a great thing to see. But the highlight for me was kind of seeing everybody like level up a bit this week and like the past week. I've seen a lot more concerns about project architecture and finding an issue with the time code earlier was huge. And yeah, I mean, everybody's just leveling up so fast right now in this project, and it's so cool to see. Yeah, that's all I got to say.
Cool. Now it's Jen's turn.
Yeah, sorry, John. Our names are off by one letter, so whenever I see your name, I panic and I'm like, didn't I already go? I know. Anyways, yeah, so everyone's been meeting ACs pretty early on, and like you can see it from everyone's draft PR, so it's really, really great. And communication was fire. Thanks everyone for like communicating really well this week. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome.
Perfect segue into mine, which is the main subject. You all have had the best communication that I've seen in any Collab Lab cohort this far. It's been incredible. Like between teammates, between the mentors and the team. One thing that I love that you do is for you all, the other pair is not off limits. Whereas in the past, we've seen like people feel like I can only ask questions to my partner. You all work so much like as a whole team, and it's really inspiring and brilliant to watch. So great job leaning on each other. Continue leaning on each other when you have questions, because nobody knows the app like you all do because you built it. Great work.
Exactly. Yeah, I said almost the same thing. Like it seemed like everyone had a really solid idea of what the other group was working on, and it just led to much more understanding of your own issue that you were working on. So that was super cool. Working on refactoring together was great. Early PRs, wonderful. And then I just loved seeing kind of the refactoring happening, making everything cleaner and nicer, to like just making that app nicer to work in, and having reusable pieces of code, and that was super exciting. Right. All right, so what things could we work on? What things could be a little bit better? So Diane is first again.
I think on our end is that, I mean, we had worked on the ACs really early on, and so we hadn't even realized that inactive was this big thing, and we had really kept it until the end. So for us this week, it's kind of like the thing that was like that kind of stopped our progress, I guess. But then yeah, on the plus side, we got super organized, and we know what to do for next week. And what else did I write? Oh, just leaving reviews and comments in the PRs that I'm still working on getting better, but that I really get inspired by Lauren's comments. And then I get like self-conscious and I'm like, oh no, what do I write? But yeah, I'll be keeping that in mind for the next weeks and improving.
John, what's next?
I just need to continue working on my documentation and actually leaving some good comments on my commits, and also not just understanding what the big picture is of what we want to accomplish, and then just breaking it down, because I seem to psych myself out a lot when it's like all I see is a big picture and what the end product needs to be, instead of like just taking it one step at a time. So need to work on that.
Nice. Ashley?
Yeah, same as John, actually, just like kind of making time for reading. Sorry, my boyfriend is making crepes in the background. He's going AWOL. But yeah, so just, yeah, like, you know, I'm good at realizing what I don't know, but then not following up on it straight away. So I need to do that. GitHub desktop was like a learning curve for me at the moment. So I'm finding I am working on a piece of code, somebody commits something, and then when I want to pull it down, it won't merge into what I have. So I had to play around with a bit of that. So that's why I wasn't committing very much this week. But also the comments I think are excellent. I'm going to try and work on that this week and like really understand how to, you know, tell people what they want to hear, or tell people what exactly you're doing, because sometimes the commit messages are just very vague and it's not very clear what actually has been changed. So definitely the comments is something I'll work on this week.
Awesome. Jen.
Okay, so I totally forgot about reviews this week, so my bad, everyone. Sorry about that. Also, not like what Diane said, didn't really realize that inactive was a lot more than, or not even, actually, I didn't even see inactive, to be honest, when we were like first half in the week. So we were blindsided. We were done with all our ACs and we're like, what the heck is this inactive thing? And then another thing was kind of like lack of documentation. I find that I'm going into different parts of the app over and over and over again for certain things. And it's probably something that I'll want to work on next week, maybe making a separate issue out of it, is just like really making a robust README of all the different things that we need to know if you want to use the different like helper functions and stuff that we're using in our app, just because it will be a huge time saver, kind of like inspired by what Lauren shared with us about communication. And I think that's the one piece that our team is missing, is having like a nice document to be like, oh yeah, I forgot, what is our data schema like again? Oh yeah, I forgot, how is our Firebase organized again? So probably we'll work on that next week. And the other thing I didn't write down, but I just remembered, is also I'm a bit more timid to like ask my pair or other people to do things a certain way, even though, for example, I had been sitting on like expanded commit messages since like the very beginning, but I didn't want to like burden the other teammates to do too much at once. So I think working on like trying to balance like sharing knowledge, but not being afraid to be like, hey, you could also do it this way. We could improve our workflow if we do it like this or something. So yeah.
Nice. It's really good. That is a good question. And like how to best like encourage a kind of behavior without coming across as a big jerk, right?
Or like just overloading. Like if I had like picking out all this stuff in week one, I feel like everyone would be like, I don't want to work with you anymore. Like it's too much.
Yeah, I think that, yes, everyone comes with their own experience and their own like where they are, right? And sometimes like you just can't do, maybe you're here and you can't necessarily achieve this, but there are steps in between that you can achieve. It's a good skill to like understand about it. Cool. All right, what did I put? So the reason that I got so fast with my retro answers is that I wrote them down ahead of time, because I know it always takes me so long to, like when I'm under pressure, to figure that out. Okay, so I want to just continue us to be noisier on Slack. I have to remind myself to be noisy on Slack because I'm just a quiet person in general. But I love how that's going, and we can continue to do more. And then kind of thinking about last week, when we submit those final PRs for review, really put yourself in your reviewer's shoes, and like, what do they need to know? What do they need to know to be able to test it? What do, like doing a self-review, putting comments in the places that you worked on, like we did it this way because this was interesting, et cetera, et cetera. A self-review, I think, is really useful for your reviewers. Yeah, so let's see, what action items can we, did everyone had a chance to do what prevented us from making progress, I think. Action items, let's see. So I'm going to put Jen's more documentation, and continued refactoring. I'm going to put that as an action item because I think that's sort of in everyone's heads right now. What else could we add as action items for this coming week?
I would say the commit comments, Lauren. Maybe, yeah, just take note of that.
Think about commit messages and expand on those. Let's see, what else? There was something that I was just thinking of and it just escaped my mind. What other ideas do people have about action items for next week or things to keep in mind?
Maybe something we could add to the documentation ticket is we could, if y'all are comfortable with it in your PRs, giving like a little high-level overview of the changes you made and how it affects the structure of the application. So actually in your PRs, given a high-level description of the changes you made, like any new features you added to a file, like a new helper function or whatnot, might be helpful.
More context for reviewers, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and also thank you for the new PR template. I think it really helps move in that direction.
Cool. Yeah, that was Stacy created that when we were working together a couple of weeks ago, and so we're adding that to the repos going forward. I think it's just really helpful to know what to put in, what's a nice PR description. Oh, I remember my thing now. Okay, so making sure that we understand issues as much as possible, right? We don't always know everything when we're starting to code, but really going through the acceptance criteria, making sure that you understand what they are, because it'll help your work go faster, I think, the more that you really understand the issue. So making sure we understand issues as much as possible, and maybe even, this kind of goes back to what John was saying, maybe even making a list of steps to take to reach those AC, right? Like, okay, first we need to do this, really thinking through the issue, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this, and blah, right? I think that helps guide your work a little bit better, and you'll get done. Like, I thought everyone got done so fast this week. It was pretty amazing, but it'll help you accomplish the task a little bit sooner, I think.
Cool. Well, that is a perfect segue into figuring out what our issues for next week are. If you want to pop over there to the project. I put our threads in Slack. Those are not on my screen anymore. Jennifer and Aisling, then Diane and John. And it looks like the issues are, as a user, I want to view the details of my purchase to better understand my purchase patterns. And so that one is going to be pulling some data from the database and displaying it in a new view. And then issue number 14 is, as a user, I want the welcome screen to look pretty. So some styling in that one. Anything jump out to anybody here? If not, I'll assign them in order. Anybody particularly excited about trying to create a new view?
Sure.
Okay. Jennifer and Aisling are going to do 13, and John and Diane will do 14. Let me see. Okay, perfect. And do either of you mentors have any preference on which breakout room you want to go into?
I'm fine with either.
I'm a CSS freak, so I'd love to.
Okay, great.
Nice.
Okay, so create breakout rooms. In breakout room number 1, we're going to put Lauren, who's a CSS whiz with Diane and John. Hopefully I do this right this week. And then Joey's going to be with Jennifer and Ashling on creating a new view to display item details. Good luck this week, everyone. Let's be noisy in Slack and let's do the thing.
Nice work, everybody.
Opening them now.
Cool.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
And bye, recording.